In this video, I'm going to show you how to take an unfinished door opening like this and turn it into a cased opening like this. And we're going to do it right now. First thing you want to do when you're doing this project is to figure out what you want to use for trim. Obviously, if you're just doing one door opening, you're just going to want to match what you have. In my case, I have this colonial casing, and that right there, just so you know, is a cased door opening. So we're going to make this look just like that. But I am going to be going around my entire house and changing out this colonial casing with this. Just a little step up, make things a little fancier. And another thing you want to do is to figure out if you're going to paint it or if you're going to stain it. All the other trim in the house is stained, and if you're a fan of stained trim, I'm sorry, but we are changing to painted. But if you are going to stain it, don't get pre-primed, get clear, and then you can stain it, poly it, do whatever you need to do. But I've determined this is what I want, so I got this and some pine to go on the inside here. Next thing we need to do is take some measurements. We got to take 3 different measurements, starting with what we want the height to be here. And what I like to do is try to match all the other doors in the house, or at very least, and in this case, match this one right here that's right next to it, because it really bothers me when the heights are off. So we'll take a look at this one compared to this one and get the height first. So we can take a measurement from right here down to the floor, but what I like to do is to actually measure the top of this. It just makes things easier when putting this together. So this is 3/4 of an inch. We can just hold our tape right here and mark right here. And this is the actual top of this. So if we're matching this trim, we can measure from the floor and up to this line, and that will tell us exactly how big we need to make this. So 80 1/4 would be the height that we want. Now in my case, I am actually going to be replacing this. So on the other side, I've already taken the trim off, and you can see there is room to go up here if I wanted to. So if I wanted to match the height of a different door, which I might want to get closer to, I could go all the way to, say, 81, but I do want to leave some room. It's a good idea to leave about a 1/2 inch to the framing all the way around. That way you can adjust accordingly. So if I measure the other opening compared to this, it'll give me a better idea of where I want the height to be. And this looks to be just about a 1/2 inch bigger. So I think that original measurement, 80 1/4, would probably work. And make sure that your trim is going to cover. Mine is plenty wide, so that will work. So I'm going to go with our first measurement being 80 1/4. So on the door frame itself, I've written down 80 1/4. That's our height. And now for our width, I'm just going to measure in between here. And I have just about 30 inches. And then I want to check that on the bottom, about 30 1/4. So I think, like I said, to leave a 1/2 inch on either side. If I do 29 inches, I think that'll work for the door opening. I'll write that down, 29 inches. So now we need to determine the width. And really, 3.5 inch stud, 1/2 inch drywall, 1/2 inch drywall. It should be 4.5 inches, but what I want to do is go around this entire thing and take a close look. So up top here, it is just over 4.5 inches. And this can vary because of several reasons, but I know in my case, it's going to be different because of this framing not being perfect. And there was really nothing I could do about it when I was doing this. So that's going to end up making this about 4 5/8 in this area right here. And every other spot around this door, it's looking like 4.5 inches. So just check several spots to make sure you're good. So I have a couple options since this isn't all the same. I could hold my piece up here and then I can scribe the back side of it and make it perfect, but then you would have a curve on either side of this, which isn't terrible, but what I'm gonna choose to do is to split the difference. So most of the way around this is 4.5 inches, and for about 2 feet maybe, this is 4 5/8. So I'm gonna go right in between at 4 9/16 all the way around. So that way I can just run it through my table saw, and I think I'll be able to make this work. So I've said similar stuff in the past, but I think this time I really mean it, at least with pre-primed pine. I'm gonna have to go somewhere else to get this stuff, somewhere other than the big box store. As you can see, this is just trash. You can see every single joint. There's all these imperfections, and it's primed. So the whole point of it being primed is it's ready to go. You just paint it up. But instead, I'm gonna have to sand all of these pieces to make it look good. So if you have any suggestions of where I could go, of course, I'll check out local lumber yards, but basically all I'm saying is go somewhere where they have nice trim and pick some good pieces. And when you're ripping this, pick the good side and kind of think about where that is gonna land in your doorway. And that way you have less work to do when you go to finish it. Now, here's my top piece, which I'll cut long. Remember, 29 is our measurement. So 4 and 9/16, right about there. A 1/16 past half, and we rip. So the first measurement, 29. That is the width. I almost messed up. 29 inches should be the measurement from this side. Let's pretend that these are the side pieces. From this side to this side. I still want to have that 1/2 inch play on either side, but I need to subtract 1.5 inches, 3/4, 1.5 from this piece. So it should actually be 27.5. And then that will go in between here, and the total width will be 29, which is what we want. So just take it slow. I'm gonna square off one end. Flip it over and mark 80 1/4. Stop before you cut those pieces and take a look at your floor. Now this isn't gonna matter so much for me because I am gonna end up tearing this floor out and redoing this whole thing. But if you have a finished floor and you're just gonna take your pieces of trim and go right down to that floor, you're gonna wanna make sure that your floor is completely level. So in my case, it is off just a little bit. So if this was my finished floor, what I would do is cut a nice straight piece of wood to go right here in between this frame, put my level on top of it, hold up that piece and see how much of a difference I have, and then I would cut that amount from that measurement off on the opposite side so that the top of the trim is level. That might be a little complicated to understand, but if you have a floor that is out of level and you put trim on it, then that trim is going to be out of level, therefore making the top of the trim out of level. So if you take that amount off of the opposite side, it will drop the top down so that it's level. In my case, all I have to do is hold one side up because I'm gonna be ripping this floor out and undercutting the trim 3/4 inch up when I do my hardwood floor. So I don't have to worry about it. Now I'm going to check out my trim and I'm going to determine where the good side is. So in my case, nope, we'll go this way. And I'm going to say that this is the good side and This is the good side. So if you picture the door opening, these will be the stuff that you see, and this will be the face. So I'm gonna mark right here. I don't have to do anything with that. And then on this side, that. And then the top, I'm gonna do this so it's going the same way, like this. But as you can see, this is terrible too, so I'm gonna have to clean that up. I'll put this towards the top because that's awful, and that will be my finished side. So I'm going to mark that, and I am going to sand all this stuff before I install it, just to make it easier. I'm gonna use 120 grit sandpaper on a random orbital sander. Just be careful. So I can be more careful, I'll use this sander right here on the edges. Now you can find a nice flat surface near your doorway, like right here in my kitchen, and put these the way that they are actually going to be installed. So I want that at the bottom. So my rip will be on the inside, so it'll be less noticeable. And I chose where the good spots are, and I do have some touch up to do before I paint with some wood filler, but what are you gonna do? And remember how we measured this height? So now you can take this piece and just hold it flush with the top here, and you'll have the overall height that you want. Now I'm gonna hold this top piece like this so that it's flush here and flush here. The other side should be flush. And I'm gonna use a 15 gauge finish gun to attach this. One on the top, one on the bottom, and one in the middle. Same thing on this side. Now I'm going to take a combination square, and right here, call this the reveal, from this trim to this trim. This space right here, that is the reveal. So I want to get a measurement for that, but I'm going to use a combination square to get it. Hold it up like that, make sure that's good, and then tighten this up, and there's my measurement. And I chose this one because this one's different, but I want to have them all be the same. And that's personal preference, whatever looks good to you. Now, I can hold this here, make a mark, a nice sharp pencil, and this is where my trim's gonna go. I can just mark it all the way around. On the sides, I like to go about every 16 inches. Now, hooking on, what I could do is take a measurement right to that line and cut my 45, but instead what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make sure that I have enough. I think I have 8 footers, so I'll have plenty. I'm just gonna cut 2 square ends and bring them in here and line them up and mark them that way. A little more accurate, I think. And I can put my square ends on the bottom. And I can line this up right on the end so it's flush, and look down this way and put myself on the line down there. Hold it in place. As I go down here, mark right where that line is, like that. And as Tom Silva would say, mark the orientation. Same thing over here. Nice and flush. Here. Mark my line there, and mark the orientation. That's my 45. And I'll set my saw to a 45-degree angle, right there. Got my mark, I can cut this. My saw, 45, and cut it. Lay my pieces down here and attach them. I'm going to start at the top here and go right about there and use an 18 gauge brad nailer to attach this. And then I'm just going to put it on my marks and shoot it all the way down. You could also use 15 gauge nails if you wanted to here. This is pretty big trim. And then the other side, same thing. This pine's a little bowed. That's why I mark it all the way. Put a couple extra nails in here. I have my 15 gauge nailer, a 4-foot level and a 2-foot level ready to go. And I'm just gonna pick this up, just like this, and put it in the opening. So now I'm gonna center this in the opening this way. That looks good right there. And then I'm gonna check this with my 2-foot level to see which side needs to go up, and it looks like it's that side. So yours, if you cut that, should be perfect. Mine, I'm gonna have to hold up. So I'm gonna nail this side since the other one needs to go up. Hold it right there. It's centered in the opening, and try not to mess up this trim. I can just hold this up where it needs to be, shim it too if you want. Then I can put my 4-foot level on the sides, hold this so it's plumb, right about there. Make sure it's pushed up tight right here. I'm gonna get a nail in right here. So I know that I get into that stud quite a ways. Same thing on this side. Hold it towards the outside so it's more accurate. Just move this where it needs to be. Plumb right there. And now we can nail these all the way up. Kind of a tricky trim to nail. So 2 things about this. First of all, these nails I don't think are long enough, and or this trim is pretty thick. So I'm gonna end up putting nails in there. I'll just put one in right now. 15 gauge nails, just like that, all the way up. So that's nice and solid. And the other thing is, you can see this big gap. That's totally fine. Like I said, I'm doing hardwood floor here. So that is less than 3/4 of an inch. So I'll be good to undercut that afterwards. But I'm just gonna put those nails in so this is more secure. Now I'm gonna secure the jambs into the door opening. And as you can see, this can move around, so I want to make sure that that is nice and straight this way. So I'll take some shims. I could use traditional shims like this, or I could use flat shims, which might be a good option. I'll start with these, see how it works out. A bunch in here. Kind of like that. Now I'm going to take a 4-foot level and hold it against the trim like this. And then I can take my square, just to be sure. You could probably do this by eye, but I wouldn't have been able to tell that. And make sure it's going to be square. And I can nail it. This side, that's good. I also want to make sure that this is flush. The other side, close to where I want it. And I'll do some right in the middle. You can do as many as you want. I think that'll be fine. The trim will hold everything else in place. You cut these shims because I'm running out. And we can do the top. Now for the top piece, what I can do is I can measure here, or I can measure here, but what I'm actually gonna do is cut a piece long, 36 inches, and I'll show you a little trick. So this piece obviously goes like this, but I'm gonna flip it and put it like this, and with a nice sharp pencil on the sides, I'm gonna make a mark like that, and on this side. And the orientation of these 45s are gonna be opposite, so it's gonna go like this and like this. Now I'll set this to 45, and I'm gonna just barely make that line disappear. And same thing on this side. Now, put this piece up, and since the sides are plumb and the top is level, this should make for some pretty decent 45s. A little bit of a gap here, that's okay. If you have to trim it, you can trim it. And I'm gonna add just a little bit of wood glue here before I nail them. I can install this here first. Nail in. And then over here, this is a little long, which I actually prefer. And then I can pull it down. Then I can nail this 45 here. Put one right here, one right here. The trim on the outside is done, so now we're gonna do the trim on the inside. And this would be a good time to fill this in if you are doing, say, sound insulation or something like that. And I definitely could have gone a little bigger with this. I could have made a 28-inch opening, which was my intention when I framed this, but it's only a ½ inch less, and I'm not putting a door in here, so it's fine. As for the trim on the inside here, I could definitely do this same trim right here. It would work up here, but I'm gonna run into an issue right here. So first of all, I don't have enough space to do this. And even if I notched around here, you can see I'm hitting the cabinet door. So that is not gonna work. And it's the inside of a pantry, so I'm not really concerned with matching this trim. So what I'm gonna do is rip down some pieces of pine and just trim it out with this, because that will work down here. I'll just make it small enough so that I don't have to get into this, and it will work for the cabinet doors. I'm gonna rip it down probably 2.5, 3 inches and just do the same thing on the inside. I use my combination square, starting right here, same reveal, and then I can take a measurement here. Yeah, I'm gonna do 2.5 inches all the way around. Just make sure it works everywhere. That'll be good. 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 Two and a half. My top piece. And look at this. I ended up going to a local lumber yard and got a 1x8, which was actually a little less expensive and way nicer. I can sand that, but overall, way better. with this one, since it doesn't matter as much, I'm gonna go to the floor and measure up to my mark, 80 and an eighth. We're gonna go 80 because remember, I am cutting the bottom. I can just hold it up. That way I don't have to cut it again if I cut it too long. I'll check the other side, make sure 80 will work over here. Just a little tight, but I think it'll work. So I'll do 80 inches to the short point of the 45. So I'm gonna pick my side. I want this finished side to be towards the cabinet because it's gonna be hard to get in there and finish that. At least it'll be primed if nothing else. So I want it to be like this, with this facing in towards the doorway. And my 45 orientation is this way. So the short point will be right here. 80 inches. And then again, that's my 45. Now this is the right side, and I want this to be facing in towards the door. My 45 goes this way. Measure to the short point, 80 inches, 45 this way. I'm just gonna sand off the saw curves and anything else that I see. Okay. First piece in. Make sure we're on the line. Now right here is where this gets a little wider, so all I have to do is just didn't get close enough. I just don't want to blow this out, but I think I want to use 15 gauge and not 18. All right, third time's a charm. Go a little closer and hope that this doesn't blow out the side here. Right here is where it was a little wider, but it doesn't look like we have much of a problem. If there was a gap here, I would just kind of shift this, and then when I nail this side, just pull this in slightly and nail it. It might be at a slight angle, but you could also caulk this in here. Up to you what you want to do. Find that line. It opens. Not a lot, but it opens. And I do this side. Hold it up to the line. Now we're going to do the same trick here. I want this to actually be like this, so I need to flip it like this. Get here, mark it here, opposite 45s, and that way when I cut it, it'll be just like that. Test fit. Ooh, perfect. We'll glue these 45s. I'm gonna nail it right here first. Over here. And then get these to be flat. Shoot them. Whoa! Double shot. Same thing over here. Use a wet paper towel to get this glue off. This glue sands very nicely too, so no worries there. And now I can nail the outside of this trim. So to finish this, I'll be filling all these nail holes, caulking in these 45s and all along here, priming it, giving a light sand, and then painting it. But for this video, we're done. Hopefully, if you needed to do something like this, the video helped you out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. If you're still watching, I just wanted to say thank you for doing so. And if you saw a bunch of videos on this pantry and this whole mudroom, reading room remodel, this is basically where we're going to stop with the pantry, because I am going to eventually be doing hardwood floor. So I'm going to leave this carpet here for now. I'm not going to do the toe kick. I'm not going to do the baseboard until that hardwood's done. But this is going to be functional for now. We're still kind of figuring out where stuff is going to go. But so far, it's working out great. Got our coffee maker in here, and this just worked out really nicely. I'm happy with it, and my wife is happy with it. But I just wanted to give you an update. The next thing we're doing is jumping over to the mudroom. Should be a fun one. So again, thanks for watching, and enjoy some of these bloopers. I'm sure there's some. See you on the next one. Are we good?
We're great.
Cased opening. Pause. From this to this. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay. You can cut. Which is turned on. Just strong of 4.5. Whatever the fuck that measurement is. Pause, please. Hold on. Relax. It's okay. I didn't get enough for the trim on the other side, did I? That was fucking stupid. That was heavy. Cut that part out, Lauren. So now I'm gonna choose my orientation. Used to be 4 9/16. Crossing my arms. I guess this is dangerous. I get it. And then I want to cut the opposite side.
Why won't it? Because it's rigid. It's a piece of crap.
Oh my God.
Should have bought Milwaukee.
Oh man. Okay, that's good. And it's not gonna fit. It's not gonna fit. Is that tight?
Yes. No.
I missed the shims. Try and shoot through the shims. Please make it look like I'm not a bumbling idiot, Lauren. Should I put one here? Probably. But that's okay. I'm trying to make an excuse here.
Do you want a Kinder Joy? Or a Snickers? Or a Santa?
Rip it! Speaking of cold, this sander is freezing. God, I need a heated garage. Or spring. Spring would be nice. Might be loud, Coda. I turn the compressor on. Wah. Got it. Sorry.